The Guardians signed their third player to a long-term extension this week. They pick up their first win of the season, yet it's still all Stephen Kwan. What a week so far for the young player. We are going to go deep on Kwan in this one. We'll also get to the Straw extension and the big win. But Stephen Kwan is turning into a folk hero for your Cleveland Guardians.
You are Locked On Guardians, your daily podcast on the Cleveland Guardians, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
First, I want to thank you for making Locked On Guardians your first listen today and every day, wherever it is you get podcasts. And give you a quick reminder who I am. I am Jeff Ellis, the host of Locked On Guardians for almost 700 episodes now. Before that, I was a lead draft and prospect analyst at 24/7 and Scout. And now, and if you go before that, I've pretty much appeared on or been a guest on every single Cleveland Indians blog you can imagine. There comes my co-host, Nacho. You coming up? This has become the new staple of our show, right? My cat's joining in on the show. You want to say hi? He came for Kwan. Like everyone else, he came for Kwan. And what a series. Like it's all downhill from here, right? Like no matter what happens, it's all downhill from here. This was, I got tweeted this from Kevin Kavsnock at Kevin KVASNOK12. Cleveland Guardians rookie left fielder, 24-year-old Stephen Kwan has reached base 12 times in his first 3 games. That's 2 more times reaching base than any other player in their first 3 career games since 1901. Highest batting average in first 3 career games since 1901. He tied what Yerman Mercedes did last year. So far in 3 games, his slash line is 800, 857, 1.857. He is only that. So that's okay. He's the 6th player to have a 5-hit game in his in one of his first 3 games in AL/NL history. The only player in MLB history to record a game with 6 times on base within his first 12 MLB games, and all of this was just in his 3rd game. It has been a ridiculous debut for Kwan, which is funny. You go back to what got stated at the beginning, where, it was like, well, he's maybe not going to... Now they can't do anything but let him play. Even if, half the times people who don't know him are looking out there and thinking, is that the Bat Boy? I kid, but I don't kid. I'm sure there are people who've had that thought. He has just been utterly dynamite. 2 doubles? He got hit today. So he had total 3 walks in the first 2 games. It's just been... He has been a man on a mission to prove he belongs. I mean, it's been a lot of fun to watch. I mean, yeah, this is updated here. So let's see. Total so far, 8 hits and 14 plate appearances, 3 walks, and, a hit by pitch. So he's reached base 12 out of 14 times he's come up and still hasn't struck out yet. His runs created plus, again, this is all small season. It doesn't matter. It's more for, the humor of it, is 438. So he is out there doing things. He's making it impossible to not play him. I've gotten into it a few times defending him, where people are like, this is interesting. At some point, Fangraphs has updated their value on him. That is interesting. I don't remember this being this high. So why am I making a big deal? They're listing his hit tool as a 70/80. For those who don't know, the 70/80, and 80 is the highest grade possible. We're talking about, if they're listing him in a 70/80, they're listing his hit tool as a potential greatest hitter in baseball, and that is his current versus his future. Did someone break this? I kind of want to, they're calling him here, in the Brett Gardner mold. He does not swing and miss, has terrific defensive instincts. He made a few great plays out there and left. He has no power. You're hoping for him to be, the guy who comes to mind, on top of my head. Earlier, I had one comp. It's remember Brian Roberts, who I think one year had a ridiculous 30 or 40 home runs. Let's see, where was it? No, he never did. Okay. What he had was 50 doubles and 40 doubles multiple times. I don't know why. I think that year he had 18 home runs and that was a high, but it's a guy who had 16, 18, 10, 12, but was, rather consistently a very strong hitter, walked at a high rate, had sterling on base percentages, was 5'9", so he's in the Kwan. Like this is his comp. I'm gonna feel good about this one. I think Kwan is listed 5'9" as well, right? Same height. They have same height, same weight. How about that? He was a first-round pick out of University of South Carolina back in the day. Was a 30 career WAR at second base for Baltimore, an excellent player, multi-time All-Star. So I think that is where I'm going to lead into for my comp. So why do I like that Brian Roberts comp? Well, similar size, plus defenders, could run well, walk, and I don't have the strikeout percentages right in front of me, but he was not someone who struck out a whole ton in my... Oh, here it is. Yeah, like his strikeout percentage is 13.5 for a major league career. That's pretty good. So I think that is a pretty strong comp for Kwan, and I feel pretty good about that one. He is a player who, again, at peak was worth almost 6, was over 5 WAR twice. There's going to be limitations to Kwan's value because he does not have much power. But I think he'll do enough other things. He's not going to be the best guy in terms of your fantasy stats. He is not going to be the guy, he's going to cool down at some point, and there's going to be some cold stretches because when you are strongly based on contact rates, that can be a bit of an issue, but he has walked, at a higher percentages for most of his minor league career. So I think he'll have that to balance out. It's going to be disappointing at some point because he's right now playing like a video game, and he's going to cool down. It is inevitable. But if you're enjoying it, go ahead and enjoy it. He is already, in 3 games, his WAR is 0.2. 0.2. Let's put that in the outfield draft ranking since 2020. Ready for this? So I went and did the quick math. If we want to count Joe Inlet, who is listed as a second baseman / outfielder at University of Nevada, in terms of WAR, after 3 games, Stephen Kwan is currently tied with Clint Frazier and Trevor Crowe for career WAR and 7th best outfielder WAR since the year 2000 amongst drafted outfielders. There's been a lot of them. You want the full list? You ready for the full list? Luke Scott 1, 11.8 WAR. Ryan Church 2, 9.1. Joe Inlet 3, 4.9. 4, Tyler Naquin 3.5. 5, Bradley Zimmer 2.7. 6, Ben Francisco 2.5. Wait, did I do this right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm sorry, it'd be 8th within Inglet. 7th is Greg Allen with a 1, and then Crowe, Frazier, Kwan all tied for 8th. Still, doesn't change the fact that after one weekend, he is one of the 10 most productive outfielders for a team that has drafted a lot of outfielders in the last 22 years. That's where we are. That is where we are as a team. You can just keep going. It is 3 games. You don't want to make too much out of big games. I still feel like someone hacked Fangraphs. An 80 hit tool, future projection. Again, that's projecting him to be Tony Gwynn, right? Like if Tony Gwynn, Ted Williams, considered the greatest hitters in the game. If you're saying he's going to be an 80, you're putting him in that bracket. I'm not doing that. A 70 seems pretty fair, but he's a 70 now, future 80. I think Fangraphs got hacked. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they are extremely bullish on Stephen Kwan. He's had a big weekend. There's a lot of reason for excitement. The Guardians moved him up. And it's funny today to see a lot of people being like, oh, it's nice having a good bat at 5, like Ahmed Rosario. It just helps the lineup. Why do you think I was saying put Kwan there? You want to get your best hitters at the top of the lineup. This is what I've been talking about for forever on this podcast. We are going to take that first break. We're going to come back, talk Myles Straw extension, and then we'll get into the 2 games from this weekend. Obviously, Sundays is a ton to talk about when the Guardians went wild. In the history of this podcast, there have been 2 games I went out of my way to say, oh, I should bet on these, and 1 award. That award was for Stephen Kwan at 5,000 plus odds, which I'm going to regret mighty heavily if I was wrong, over with our good friends over at Bet Online. Bet Online is your number 1 source for all of your betting stats and sports info. Find all the latest sports developments, league reviews, and news, including this year's basketball playoffs and the start of the Major League Baseball season. Bet Online is your continued source for all of your sports wagering information, from live betting to playoffs, esports, and more. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends in action. Bet Online, where the game starts. So let's talk Myles Straw. Now, if you're a long-time listener to this show, you can think back to, like last winter of 2021, early 2021, when I had the Houston Astros host on. I was supposed to have another host who couldn't show up, and Eric was very nice to hop in, and we had a chat, and I was even bothering them about Myles Straw. You can go and listen to that, where I'm like, no, we had a whole discussion about the fact that I liked Myles Straw because he walks a lot, and he's like, he doesn't walk in the big leagues. I'm like, well, no, he walked in the minors, and that's why I liked him quite a bit, and we had a whole discussion, because I've been talking about acquiring Myles Straw for easily a year and a half before the Guardians did. I had the same point of view the Guardians did, that this is a worthwhile starter for your team, a worthwhile player. He is a special athlete who does not strike out much. And this is, I think Chad Young was his name. I should dig out. He had a great tweet, kind of about this whole idea of that, he may not be. Yeah. So let me give a shout out to @ChadYoung. Last year, Jose Ramirez had the 9th lowest swinging strikeout percentage in the MLB. Myles Straw had the 2nd lowest. And then you got Kwan hitting between them, who hasn't swung through a pitch yet. That's a brutal way for a pitcher to start. It's like, yeah, that is going to be a top of the order that wears people down, much like when you had Santana up there taking a ton of pitches, and you had Jose Ramirez hitting 2 in Lindor, and it just wore people down. That's what's going to be fun with this. And the Guardians, like I said, they tried to get Straw for a few years. They were finally able to get him, and now he's locked up. So essentially, much like Clase and Ramirez, this gives them potentially 7 years of team control. Now, the last 2 years, much like with Clase, are team options. So if things don't work out, they can always, say bye-bye. But if everything does work out, you're looking again at, your center fielder, your MVP candidate, third baseman, and potentially the best closer in baseball, locked up for 7 years as the young players start to come. And I think what we're seeing here is directly the CBA. This is the change the CBA is causing. It's the same thing with like Cabron Hayes, who hasn't played a ton, but got the 8-year, $70 million extension, because you want to get those years now because you're not getting the great deal you used to, right? Like if a player is a great player, they're going to start getting money in their 2nd year of arbitration. It's not 3 years then money. You don't have 3 cheap years and now we got to figure it out. It is guys get paid sooner. If you want to lock in a deal, you need to lock it in sooner. Myles Straw was 4 days away from being a Super 2 candidate. He was right on the cusp. Now, he is not someone whose profile typically is going to lead to huge numbers. Now, if he starts getting hardware, it doesn't matter, the fact that he's more of like a league average bat. And again, I will take league average in this outfield. But he is he's a potential Gold Glove center fielder every single year. If he starts getting hardware, the price goes up. Like hardware and home runs and saves and things like that. There are certain things that always increase salaries. So the Guardians lock him in at 5 years, $25 million. So he's getting $5 million a year. I didn't see the exact breakdown per year. I'm sure I could pull that up if I was really looking, but they're locking him in at about an average of $5 million per year. Now the extension years, not the extension years, the team options are $8 million in 2027 and $8.5 million. Those are going to be in his early 30s. So those, there's a chance that those don't both get picked up, but you're locking up. This team has been on the hunt for a center fielder. I mean, since it's supposed to be Mercado. But again, if you listen to the show, it's like at the end of that Mercado season, it's like, this guy is streaky. I don't count on him there. Like, this is something that is undefined yet. This is something that is not a sure thing. It's like when Brantley was a center fielder but wasn't good at it. Do you go back to like when you had Bourne and Stubbs and Brantley and that defensive alignment where, at least you got good defense and, the offense wasn't atrocious. It was closer to league average. It wasn't what you were paying someone like Bourne for, but still. My co-host is back. You have something else to add? But yeah, I mean, you look at what Straw's done. Through his career, he's been right about league average. Right about there. Now, when he came to the Guardians, it picked up even more. I don't know if they really would mess with anything. But it's funny because we talk about Steve Kwan's value. Straw might be more valuable as a fantasy player, like if that's your thing, because he steals so many bases. Like Kwan will steal a few here and there, That's not going to be his game. When you're talking about, fantasy value, Straw has more. When you're talking about what he brings to the team, look at what teams did trying to find center fielders this offseason. I mean, think about what Philadelphia would probably give up right now for Myles Straw. You'd be able to get more than you paid. Let's put it that way. Because teams need center fielders. Seattle, the view there is Kalenic has gotten too thick for center. Julio is probably not going to be that long term. Like, they still need a center fielder. How many teams have been looking for center fielders this offseason? And the Guardians have one. And they have him for 7 years. And he's a top 3 defender. And he's a league average bat who doesn't swing at bad pitches. And once he's on the base pads, is an elite base runner. There's a lot of positives there. And $5 million a year. I mean, think about Eddie Rosario. Like, he was considered a discount deal at $8 million a year. They're getting Straw for less than they paid Cesar. And I like Straw better than either of those players. So this is a fantastic team-friendly deal. I don't know what the buyouts are, on those contract years. It's probably at least $1 million. But it's a solid deal. And if he starts bringing home hardware, I mean, that's the thing. If Myles Straw wins like 2 or 3 Gold Gloves in a row, there's no guarantee of that. The Gold Gloves are so subjective, and it hurts him playing in Cleveland in terms of the market. But he would have gotten to be more expensive than $5 million easily in his 3rd or 4th year if he brought home hardware. I have no doubt about that. So this saves them money. It is a smart signing. And for a team that has been looking for stability in center field for a very long time, they've got it. And this was a guy they targeted. And this is a player I targeted on this podcast and talked about many times for all the same reasons that the Indians, or I should say the Guardians now, targeted him. So I think we'll see more extensions. I still hold out hope for like Quantrill and Franmil. I think Bieber's not going to happen. That's the one I put in like the Lindor camp, because now Biebs is getting paid and it's a lot harder and pitchers get to be so expensive. I don't think we see Biebs sign an extension. As a matter of fact, he could be a trade candidate this offseason. I've talked about that before, if he puts together another fantastic year. But everyone else, all those other core pieces that we have been discussing, I think you sit down, you chat, and you start locking money in. Because, again, with the change in the CBA, you're not getting all those cheap years at the start you used to if a player is really good. So you instead want to start locking in some kind of contract. And, players like it in Cleveland. I mean, the fans get annoyed with them. But it's like, it is an easygoing place to play. It is a strong management. It is a forward-thinking team, and it's got a good vibe. By all accounts, like, guys who come here seem to enjoy it. So, yeah, Straw is here. It is a fantastic signing. It is another core piece locked up. They've got the young players coming up the middle. Someone's going to be a shortstop. Someone's going to be a second baseman. We're not sure yet. Sure looks like you got Kwan and Straw in the outfield. Again, we'll caution the small sample size. We're also going to enjoy a fantastic weekend. So, that other outfield spot, is it Jones? Is it Valera? If you keep Franmil, do one of them move to if you don't keep Franmil, does one move there? If you keep them, does one move to first? They're building internally. For as much as I was as annoyed as everyone else that they just sat back and watched free agency happen, this is what I said they had to do. If you're not going to go out and sign players, then you need to start signing your own. You need to start locking up your talent, and they're doing that. They are doing what they need to do. And if they really truly believe that, like, outside of getting the elite of the elite, outside of getting a Winker or an Olsen, if they think that Meadows is we don't call it a horizontal move, do it? Yeah, we do, right? It's late. I'm gonna blame I've had some just flakiness today. But if they view it as just that horizontal move, which is what I think they viewed Meadows as, like, he's a terrible defender and he only hits part of his platoon well. Or he's essentially a platoon bat. So we're not going to go out and trade assets to get a guy and then pay him. If we can get Winker, it's like he is an elite hitter against the fat part of the platoon. We'll deal with the bad defense. If we can go out and get Matt Olson, he is just a wrecking crew. So we'll go out and trade for him. But if we can't get someone that we know is an upgrade, then we are going to hold pat with what we have. We have maybe the deepest minors in baseball. And we are going to feel good that some of these players are starting to contribute, and be a part of this team's future. And we'll keep as many of the core pieces as we can and build out from there. And that really seems to be the approach. So we are going to take that second break here. We're going to come back and talk about the first win of the season and also the extra inning affair from Saturday. And our sponsor is one of my favorite sponsors. You know that means it's Built Bar. I got my order of the yellow chirps. It does taste like a Peep. I'm just going to say it. So you get to eat a Peep that has 8 grams of protein, 80 calories, 6 grams of sugar. That's right. It's a Peep that gives you 8 grams of protein and only 6 grams of sugar. If that is your thing, if you are someone who likes a Peep like I do, go check it out right now. Get the yellow chirp. That is that specific flavor. I enjoy it quite a bit. My latest order was the yellow chirp and the churro. I already talked about my love of churro and just my love of the puffs in general. The one downside to the puff, if I'm being honest, is you don't get the fiber that you get on the other ones, but still, you're getting high grams of protein, 8 grams. You're getting potassium, you're getting calcium, you're getting no trans fats. It is a healthy little bar that, again, tastes like candy in this case. Go to BuiltBar.com yourself. When I go, I use the promo code LOCK15, just like I advise you to do, because I want to save 15% on all of my orders. I like saving money. If you like saving money, use the promo code LOCK15. BuiltBar.com. It is a product I've been eating for 3 years. There's no other product I can say that about. There's no other product I've eaten as consistently, daily, over the last 3 years as I have Built Bar. Go to BuiltBar.com and try it for yourself. So we have 2 polar opposite games. Saturday's game, Guardians lose 1-0 in extras. Your fun extra inning rule. So Clase picks up the loss, even though he does not have an earned run. Does get hit around in this one for 2 hits. Look at Plesac. 3 hits in 5 2/3, 3 strikeouts. Shaw, another appearance. I need to put a counter in the background so we can start tracking just how much money this is going to cost. But Sandlin comes in. Trevor Stephan comes in. Anthony Ghost comes in. Pitching does their job. You expect Clase to get through. He does not. In this one, so who reached base more than once? One Stephen Kwan. And that's it, unfortunately. They only had 5 hits and a walk in this one. Of those 6 base appearances, 3 of them went to Kwan. Ernie Clement did get hit by a pitch. I'm sorry, Clement reached twice. That's not true. Clement had a hit, and he got hit by a pitch. So there were 2 players who did reach base twice. Only extra base hit went to Kwan. If you're looking at the Indians had 7 opportunities to the 8 opportunities that went to Kansas City. Bobby Witt with a big play in this one. It's an unfortunate loss. It's an annoying loss because you get that great pitching performance and you just can't seem to get it together. You just kind of tap your cap and move on. 3 stars in this one. Plesac for sure. Kwan for sure. And I think I give it to Clement for reaching base twice. It's hard to split it amongst the pen arms for this one when I'm looking at it. So I go Clement, Kwan, Plesac. And let's move on to the win. 17-3. I joined this one. It was already in the third, and it was already 10-2 when I came in. Quantrell is your starter. Kind of interesting that he's the third starter, right? That that they went Bieber, Plesac, then Quantrell, then Savale. It's interesting. It's just maybe not when most of us expected Plesac to be the number 2. Pitch like it. Quantrell had a solid game, 5 innings. They let him. It felt like he was laboring a bit at points. It was only 74 pitches or 76 pitches, but it was definitely okay, he's getting beat up a bit. Eli Morgan. Here's the nice thing with Morgan. So almost from the moment he was drafted, like I said, move him to the pen, make him a reliever, see if the fastball plays up. His fastball today was 3 miles an hour faster than it was on average a year ago, 2 miles an hour it played up. And then you've got the change, which might be the best secondary offering any Cleveland pitcher has. And I'm just kind of again, there's so much more value in a starter than a reliever, so I get that. But if you are this team, especially if the pitching stays, I understand he's your 6th starter, right? So you also kind of need him because no one pitches just 5 starters in a year. No one pitches just 6. You need that depth. So it's hard to say move him out until you feel like Cody Morris can be healthy, until you feel better about Pilkington. I mean, honestly, until you feel like we very much jumped the gun, I think, with McKenzie. I think McKenzie, again, everything works out. McKenzie is this team's ace in a year if they have to move on from Bieber. But he is not, I don't look at him as let me know what you think. Hit me up on Twitter, JeffMLBDraft. And I want to take this moment to, again, thank you for making Locked On Guardians your first listen today and every day, wherever it is you get podcasts. But let me know at my Twitter at JeffMLB Draft. Do you think he's proven? I don't honestly think like Plesac's proven either. Like I feel like we know kind of what Savale is. Like he's a 3. Quantrill, I'm a little iffy on just because it's 1 year. Like to me, that's not proven. Like I know Bieber, I know Savale. The rest, I feel like I'm a little closer at least. Like I feel like the other 3, Quantrill, McKenzie, Plesac, like they're all starters. I just don't know how high in the rotation. So let me put it that way. Does that make sense? But yeah, I'm just kind of curious to see exactly how it plays out. But I mean, Morgan was dealing. New guy Castro comes in, not the best. 2 hits, gives up an earned run late in the game. I mean, it was garbage time. Who cares? I was hoping we'd see Pilkington, but I think they are keeping Pilkington to piggyback Savale tomorrow. Like they had a starter to piggyback outside of. I mean, Plesac didn't, but we saw McKenzie for Bieber. We saw Morgan today, so I feel like Pilkington is probably piggybacking. Sam Henches was great in his inning. But to go back to Castro, who they traded Bradley Zimmer for, and I've gotten some great data from Michael Bode over at Waiting for Next Year, tweeted some things, and we'll get into that later in the week. But he went, I already read the line. Why am I going back to it? What a day, though, in Stephen Kwan. 5 for 5. And then the other time he came up, he had 6 plate appearances. He got hit by a pitch, so he reached all 6 times. Who reached base twice in this one? Well, it's almost like who didn't. So you got Straw and Kwan, Jose Ramirez, Franmil Reyes, Ahmad Rosario, Owen Miller, Ernie Clement, Oscar Mercado. Lavastida did not, and then your pinch hitters did not. So like Chang, Jimenez, Bradley Zimmer, those guys didn't. It was essentially like Lavastida was the only guy who didn't reach base twice who was a starter in this one. They 22 hits, 4 walks. Was it just a 1-hit batter? Yeah, 1 on each side. So it was like they had 27 opportunities and they got 17 runs. On the other side, they had 7 hits and 1 walk and a hit batter. So they had 9 opportunities. 3 runs on 9 hits isn't bad. Chris Bubeck, they had Bubeck and Jackson Kowar and Brady Singer. What's funny about that is the ballyhooed draft class for them of like their future like front of the rotation starters were those 3 guys. That was the year Kansas City owned the draft. I believe that was maybe after like Hosmer left in free agency and they had multiple first round picks. I can't remember if it was like they had 2 comp picks or I mean I wrote a whole piece, it just blanking in my mind, but they used those picks and they went Singer, then Kowar, then Bubeck. Was that also Daniel Lynch that year? It was Lynch the next year. And Jonathan, I think it was also Lynch and Jonathan Bolden from Memphis. I think those were the guys. Like I mean, and then Kyle Isabel when they finally stopped after they took 5 straight starters. They went with Kyle Isabel, the outfielder. It was a really interesting class. I was so low on Singer and Kowar. I was not a big fan of the Florida arms, so it was not. There were people who were talking about Singer as the top player in the class. That was not me. I like Kowar more than Singer, actually, and now neither of them are starters right now. Bubeck was the lefty who, when we talk about guys, dominating the Cape, that was Bubeck. He used the Cape as his launch board, led the Cape in strikeouts, and we've seen that. Taylor Clark, I should say, who we talked about on this show, and Arizona let him go. He got an appearance for him. They had a lot of guys go out there, and none of them were effective. Not at all. Your stars in this one, Stephen Kwan, of course. Jose Ramirez going 3 for 4 and also having his first home run of the year. And Oscar Mercado had a grand slam. He went, and here's the thing though, he goes 2 for 6 in this one. His batting average on the year is still 182. So not ideal. But, he had the grand slam. He was batting 8th in this matchup. I still think I'm totally fine with that. I'm definitely getting to the point where I'm like, listen, if we do some kind of weird Owen Miller, Yu Chen Chang, getting those guys to play every day, and Chang at first base, they didn't even really go to Chang in this one, so I think his time is limited. Everyone who is really high on him, and Hiram, I know you're going to tell me he's not getting opportunities, and that's fair, and he's not getting opportunities, but if you're not going to play him, then what's the point? And I'd rather see Chang and Miller getting more opportunities than Bobby Bradley at this point in time. I'll just go ahead and put that out there. I've never been the biggest Bobby Bradley guy, so everyone out there is probably like, we're not shocked. But yeah, no, I think as we're looking at this one, it was a lot of fun. Stephen Kwan just continued to be magical. Jose Ramirez has been doing Jose Ramirez stuff. I mean, Ahmed Rosario is doing his. It was maybe Owen Miller, the best game of his career. They beat him up. There's no other way around it. They beat up the Royals. Now, the Royals took the first two, so they still have the bragging rights in this one as we head into, because weirdly, no game on Friday. That still annoys me. It's like, come on, Friday night, why am I not getting a game? Tomorrow's game is Aaron Zavala versus Carlos Hernandez. And then you go to Cincinnati with Bieber versus Tyler Mahle, Tristan McKenzie against Nicholas Lodolo. I don't think that's going to happen. I think that's roster resources projecting incorrectly. But Bieber versus Mahle makes sense. And then our off day this week is Thursday, which is perfect because then our Wednesday wrap-up... no, it's not perfect. Well, we'll figure it out. I'll figure it out. Then it's San Francisco coming to town for interleague play. We'll have our college wrap-up. We'll continue to focus in and do that when we have those off days. We'll talk about what's going on, the ups and downs, the players. We'll get into the games on the daily. If any more contracts get signed, we can hope. But for all the inactivity, it was like they took a big nap and woke up. And then since then, we've gotten Clase, we've gotten Jose Ramirez, we've gotten Myles Straw, all extended, and we got Bradley Zimmer traded for an interesting pitcher that we will get to talk about later this week more in depth. It's a fun time to be a Guardians fan. They're 1-2, but it has been a fun 1-2. The pitching is pitched well. The young players are starting to look good. Your MVP is still an MVP. They're not far away. At least that is my view. Let me know again. Hit me up on Twitter at JeffMLBDraft. Make sure to rate and review. Download daily. Remember, this is a special time. Let's break the top 10 podcasts over on the network. We have never managed that. So download every single day. I would it'd be a big appreciation if you could just download the podcast every day, pay it on 10x speed, make me a happy man. In terms of the YouTube, to just check in, 112 subscribers, so thank you to everyone. We crashed through that top 100. Let's keep going from there. The Bradley Zimmer podcast is the highest watched one we have right now. That is by far. So last week's crushed everyone else's, that Friday one. Let me know what you're thinking, how you're feeling. I am always up for a mailbag, so hit my Twitter up there as well. And then let's do the one last thing, Locked On Guardians. Let's one more as we just navel gaze here towards the end of the show. We are at 103 ratings. More is better, and this will be episode 688. So again, rate and review, download daily, subscribe to the YouTube, and thank you in general to Locked On Guardians fan base. I have been kind of saying like, hey, if you enjoy the show, you want to make sure that the people who are higher ups for me see that you like this show and you want it to stay. So do everything you can, all those little things, if you are currently a fan and want to see everything continuing the way it is. I love all the sport through the years, you guys and gals, and everything else that you qualify. I don't want to butcher this and make anyone. Whatever you identify as, thank you. And I'm going to end the show as I end every episode. Go, go, Guardians, go.